Loss of control, strip you of your freedom, total surveillance. That is what CBDCs want for you. In the modern era, we see more and more oppressive regimes popping up that aim to stifle freedom of expression and remove the ability to voice one's opinions without serious repercussions. One doesn't have to look far to see what is happening to those that dare speak out against injustices. From bank accounts being frozen, to people being forcibly detained, to the political elite pushing their own perverted agenda onto the masses. The obvious question is, what is next? Well, next is the inability to live your life without the government following your every move under the pretenses of safety. That is where CBDCs come in. CBDCs are central bank digital currencies that aim to be a substitute for the physical money that we transact with. Traditional fiat currencies have the benefit of being easily accessible, tangible, and most importantly, pseudo-anonymous. Hereby I mean that it is difficult to trace the path of fiat currency once it enters into the financial system. This allows individuals to transact in their daily lives without having the government involved in monitoring how every unit of currency is spent. CBDCs would remove the anonymity and introduce perfect transparency for people in power to monitor your every move. The case of what can happen when governments forcibly try to implement monetary reforms without the constituents' approval can be seen in Nigeria. Nigeria was one of the first countries to introduce a CBDC. Naturally, it was met with certain animosity from the Nigerian people. The government tried to offer payment discounts for individuals paying using the digital currency. However, when this approach didn't give the desired result, the government tried to forcibly make people use digital currency by limiting the possibility to use cash. This was met with fervent disapproval and eventually led to the scrapping of the whole CBDC program. This is an important lesson for governments on what can happen if they force adoption of new technologies on individuals who are opposed to it. The main argument in favor of CBDCs that people put forward is its convenience and counter money laundering and counter-terrorism possibilities. We can see an increasing trend of individuals being more inclined to conduct digital commerce. This is in no small part due to the fact that nowadays a significant amount of places no longer accept physical cash. This is a worrisome pattern that should have everyone concerned. Christine Lagarde, the president of the ECB and advocate of digital currencies, who herself was implicated in some shady, corrupt dealings, had this to say about cash transactions within the Eurozone.
No, the problem is they don't want to be controlled. They don't want to...
Yeah, but you know what? Now we have in Europe this threshold. Above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash. If you do, you are on the grey market. So you take your risk. You get caught, you are fined, or you go in jail. But the digital euro is going to have a limited amount of control. There will be control. You're right. You're completely right. We are considering whether for very small amounts, anything that is around 300, 400 euros, we could have a mechanism where there is zero control. But that could be dangerous. The terrorist attacks on France back 10 years ago were entirely financed by those very small anonymous credit cards that you can recharge in total anonymity.
The main takeaway from that clip is that control, not ease of doing business, not transparency, not safety, is the main objective with the implementation of CBDCs. Never forget that. As of the moment, there is still no unified upper threshold on the amount that you can pay using cash in countries of the Eurozone. That is to say that each country has their own specific upper limit on how much you can pay using physical currency in a single transaction. Although, as of the latest press release, some alarming news is on the agenda, from a unified EU limit on large cash payments of upwards of €10,000 to more power for financial intelligence units. Setting an upper universal threshold for cash transactions, that is the first step of taking away people's financial freedom. The second step, that I already previously mentioned, is phasing out digital currencies altogether. Two graphs point to the fact that this is already happening. The first one is a graph from the Dutch Central Bank analyzing in which medium payments are made. The second one is from the European Central Bank, demonstrating a clear trend line for the phasing out of physical cash transactions. The last step to total financial dependence is forfeiting your right to choose and having that choice made for you. Given the previously outlined trends and patterns, it is evident that we are heading towards digitalization, and there is no way of stopping it. It is inevitable that new monetary policies and tools such as CBDCs will be introduced eventually. The question will be, are you ready to work around them for your own benefit? Any new technology has its benefits and its drawbacks. While yes, CBDCs are subject to cyber attacks, strict government oversight, destabilization of the current financial system, they are undeniably more convenient, which would entice the average person to adopt them. Each individual should make the consideration for themselves if the positives outweigh the negatives. In my opinion, they don't. You as an individual should not be at the mercy of the government and sacrifice your freedoms. Therefore, it is important that you have the right systems in place to not be subject to their tyranny. Some of the steps that can be taken are actively receive and use physical cash for most payments, even though it may be inconvenient. Avoid linking your online virtual identity to your real-life identity. Use alternative means of payments wherever possible, cryptocurrencies as an example. And lastly, have a backdoor system in place that if things do end up getting too bad, you can always leave to where you're treated better and your rights are respected.